conditions at Rikers Island. This time there are graphic details about unsanitary conditions, fire safety, and the ventilation systems.
CBS 2 political reporter Marcia Kramer joins us now with more. Marcia.
Well, Alice and Maurice, the report comes as Mayor Adams and Correction Commissioner Louis Molina are fighting desperately to convince a federal judge not to appoint an outside receiver to run the jails. And this report doesn't help their case.
As a whole, at these facilities, which not only are rife with abuse and violence, but also are just crumbling around people, and which reflect a lack of priorities to fix what can be fixed, that the appointment of a federal monitor can only improve those conditions.
Legal aid attorney Veronica Vila talking about the latest report from a federal monitor documenting dangerous health and safety conditions at the various jails that make up the Rikers Island Correction Complex. The 150 pictures in the report paint a stomach-turning picture of dirty toilets, wash basins, sinks, and other personal hygiene facilities. Vila was part of the inspection team.
We saw showers that are covered in mildew, inches of soap scum, little drain flies coming out of the drains. And these are areas where people are going to try to get clean.
And that's not all. Inspectors found a cornucopia of live roaches, ants, water bugs, fruit flies, gnats, and mouse droppings.
When we did our most recent sanitation inspection, we were told that we were not allowed to turn on any faucets, to flush any toilets, to make note of any leaks, or running water in the showers.
The report also documents problems with fire safety. Fire watch posts in the West facility were not staffed for 9 consecutive days in June. Other fire watch posts were not staffed for several hours over multiple shifts. A broken fire sprinkler system in the North Infirmary exacerbated the spread of a fire on April 6th in which 20 people were injured.
I know one person was injured very badly. I don't know what the extent of the injuries of the other people were.
With Rikers set to close in 2027, there is still a plea to make it safe until then.
I would tell the mayor that these are New Yorkers living in these conditions, and that as long as we're going to continue to jail the number of people that we continue to jail, we need to make sure that they are safe.
Well, a spokesman for the Corrections Department insists health and safety is, quote, a top priority. The spokesman says a fire consultant is working with the department to enhance safety measures. Allison Maurice.
Okay, Marcia.
Island is sparking an internal review. The Department of Corrections says it's already decided there will be some discipline.
CBS 2's investigative reporter Tim McNicholas joins us in the newsroom with the latest. Tim.
Dick and Dana, the DOC said in a statement they are reviewing what happened, but they've already determined, quote, procedural violations were discovered and suspensions will be issued. They declined to say what those violations are, but CBS 2 is learning more about what led up to this inmate's death.
Just before midnight here at Rikers Island, a 40-year-old inmate started complaining of chest pains. Department of Correction records obtained by CBS 2 show the staff took an inmate named Felix Taveras to a medical clinic where he began to have a seizure. Records say the staff gave Taveras the anti-overdose drug Narcan, and then EMS took him to Elmhurst Hospital, where a doctor determined he had died around 1:20 a.m.
When you heard what happened overnight, what was your reaction?
I was very upset to hear about it, but I was not necessarily surprised.
Serena Townsend is a former DOC deputy commissioner who oversaw internal investigations and is now a criminal defense attorney who has several clients at Rikers. She did not represent Taveras.
The summertime months are usually the most deadly and dangerous for detainees and staff on Rikers Island, and conditions on Rikers Island have been deteriorating year upon year.
From council hearings to protests, the DOC has been criticized for decades over what some describe as mismanagement and dysfunction at Rikers. Attorneys representing inmates say 23 people have now died in New York City jails over the last year and a half. Townsend and other attorneys have called for a federal takeover of Rikers, but DOC Commissioner Louis Molina and Mayor Eric Adams have told CBS 2 that's not the answer.
We inherited in 2022 was a mess. And we're turning that mess around. And to give the indications that we're not, it's just unfair to this commissioner, it's unfair to the men and women who work here, and it's unfair to the inmates who are here and want to be protected.
And we've asked the Department of Correction for more details on the violations they discovered this morning, but we've not heard back yet. Sources tell CBS 2 Tavares was locked up in connection to a burglary charge on Staten Island. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
All these years later. New tonight, an incarcerated man at Rikers Island was pronounced dead early yesterday morning after being rushed to the hospital, and this is according to the Department of Correction.
And News 12's Valerie Ryan joins us tonight to give us more details this evening.
40-year-old Felix Tavares was serving time at the Anna M. Cross Correctional Facility, and late yesterday Tavares reported a medical condition and was later pronounced dead at Elmhurst Hospital at 1:21 a.m., according to the Deputy Commissioner Frank Dwyer. The DOC also telling us tonight that procedural violations were discovered and suspensions will be issued.
If I did that, you did that, we'd be in jail on murder charges.
Co-director of HALT Jerome Wright says Tavares is at least one of 3 people to die while at Rikers this year and the 39th since 2021.
How many more lives have to be lost? We need people to stop being sent to a death trap. We need judges, lawyers up to find alternatives to incarceration because we don't have a death penalty in New York State. But going to Rikers Island is proven to be a death penalty.
At this time, the cause of Tavares' death is still unknown and the investigation is ongoing. At Rikers
Children behind bars in Dallas County can face living conditions worse than adults. The Dallas Morning News reports that guards and parents say that children are locked up in their cells for up to 23 hours a day and don't go outside for months. Josephine Peterson with the Dallas Morning News is here to tell us more about what she's found. Josephine, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Josephine, unfortunately, this is not the first time that we have heard allegations like these. So where exactly is this happening?
So this is happening, kids start out in the juvenile justice system, usually in the county's Henry Wade Justice Center. And, they have to wait in this detention center before a judge determines whether they get probation, more time, or sent to the state. And so all of these problems are happening at that detention center. And these kids haven't even been determined guilty of a crime yet.
So what kind of conditions are the families alleging that these kids are dealing with?
Yeah, I spoke with families, current and former employees, and they all told these shockingly similar stories about kids not getting enough nutrition. They are stuck in this really tiny cell with a concrete bench as a bed, and they have a toilet, and they're just in there for most of the day. They get out for 1 hour a day sometimes. One kid who was in the detention center for almost a year had been outside one time. And, some parents said that their kids are not getting the medical care they need. And at the end of the day, everyone says that it's dirty. Several parents complained to me that their children were breaking out in rashes all along their body because it was so unhygienic there.
And Josephine, you made a good point just a couple of minutes ago saying that these children, many of them have not even been proven guilty. So they're stuck in these situations and they can't get out of them, even if they haven't even had a court date yet. So what are elected officials saying about what you're hearing?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like you said, they're stuck in there, right? Because they don't have an opportunity to bond out. The juvenile justice system doesn't take, cash bonds or anything like that. So they're stuck in there until a judge determines when they get out. And at the end of the day, right now, elected officials are divided. Some say they want to find out what's going on, but others simply just don't believe that this is happening. And, underneath all of this is the lawsuit that the juvenile department has filed against county commissioners, saying that, these commissioners don't have the right to these records that would show whether or not these kids are actually being held in isolation for 23 hours a day.
So we certainly have not heard the end of this. Josephine Peterson with the Dallas Morning News, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura. I appreciate it.
And you can read more of Joseph.
Virginia prisons are in effect requiring 4 hours of out-of-cell time for those prisoners, among other requirements.
8 News reporter Roland Wilson joins us live in the Digital Center to break down what this entails. So, Roland, what does this actually change?
Well, Eric, Deanna, maintaining the safety of prisons while helping incarcerated people transition to the real world, that's the goal that lawmakers say they are trying to push with this law. But some are questioning if this will actually happen without certain limitations. A new approach to solitary confinement is in effect throughout the Commonwealth. As of July 1st, prison staff must now record the reason for using solitary confinement, justify continued confinement in writing every 7 days, and provide at least 4 hours of out-of-cell activities each day. While some, like Delegate Glenn Davis Jr., are fully welcoming of this change,
Virginia leads the way in prison reform with this bill.
Not everyone is on board.
It's an empty law. Something to quiet the noise. Until you put a limit on the use of solitary confinement, you've done nothing.
Natasha White with Interfaith Action for Human Rights says she agreed with the initial push to place a 15-day limit on solitary confinement as recommended by Senator Joe Morrissey, something the final version of this law does not include. Across the state, thousands of people are affected by these changes. According to the Virginia Department of Corrections, from July of 2021 to June of 2022, roughly 5,000 inmates were placed in solitary confinement, the average stay being 11 days. White fears without a 15-day limit, prisoners will continue to feel the negative effects of solitary confinement.
There will still be suicides. There will still be violent behavior. You are doing nothing but making somebody angry, breaking spirits, and literally driving them crazy.
The Virginia Department of Corrections tells me interactive journaling, small group
changes to solitary confinement in Virginia prisons are in effect, requiring 4 hours of out-of-cell time for those prisoners, among other requirements.
8 News reporter Roland Wilson joins us live in the Digital Center to break down what this entails. So, Roland, what does this actually change?
Well, Eric, Deanna, maintaining the safety of prisons while helping incarcerated people transition to the real world, that's the goal that lawmakers say they are trying to push with this law. But some are questioning if this will actually happen without certain limitations. A new approach to solitary confinement is in effect throughout the Commonwealth. As of July 1st, prison staff must now record the reason for using solitary confinement, justify continued confinement in writing every 7 days, and provide at least 4 hours of out-of-cell activities each day. While some, like Delegate Glenn Davis Jr., are fully welcoming of this change,
Virginia leads the way in prison reform with this bill.
Not everyone is on board.
It's an empty law. Something to quiet the noise. Until you put a limit on the use of solitary confinement, you've done nothing.
Natasha White with Interfaith Action for Human Rights says she agreed with the initial push to place a 15-day limit on solitary confinement as recommended by Senator Joe Morrissey, something the final version of this law does not include. Across the state, thousands of people are affected by these changes. According to the Virginia Department of Corrections, from July of 2021 to June of 2022, roughly 5,000 inmates were placed in solitary confinement, the average stay being 11 days. White fears without a 15-day limit, prisoners will continue to feel the negative effects of solitary confinement.
There will still be suicides. There will still be violent behavior. You are doing nothing but making somebody angry, breaking spirits, and literally driving them crazy.
The Virginia Department of Corrections tells me interactive journaling, small groups, and recreation time are all included in this out-of-cell time. Now, for more information, visit our website at WRIC.com. In the Digital Center, Roland Wilson.
Smash and grab heist took on a whole new meaning on Long Island. This time, the suspect used a tool to crack a car window while the driver was unaware, stopped at a traffic light.
CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan reports the heist happened minutes from the Roosevelt Field Mall.
The shopper had just spent several hours and hundreds of dollars here on a high-end Apple Watch. When driving away from the Roosevelt Field Mall, police say the soon-to-be victim was unaware that he was apparently being followed. What happened next in North New Hyde Park at this intersection and red light appears beyond brazen. In a matter of seconds, the burglar, using a center punch tool to smash the window with gloved hands, grabs the bag with a pricey item. No one was hurt. According to police, the suspect with stolen merchandise in hand ran back into his gray SUV, being driven by a female accomplice. Together, they fled eastbound on Evergreen Avenue.
Maybe they need to get more police protection. It's very scary. It's very scary and alarming.
The grab and the
go, that's not a good thing at all.
No, I don't shop at night.
This was daylight and is one in a series of crimes in recent months connected to the Roosevelt Field Mall.
It was a day when Roosevelt Field was, you would love to go there. Can I just say this? I have a granddaughter who got hurt there.
Punched in a food court brawl, she says, and we've received police releases about slashings, gunpoint robberies, a man exposing himself, groups nabbing handbags worth thousands, and a jewelry store heist.
We're out there, and we're out there in numbers, we're out there in force, but again, unfortunately, many of these laws allow for these criminals to go free after they're arrested.
The county executive says many mall crimes are being committed by repeat offenders from out of state. Nassau Police says the department has a robust security detail of police officers and supervisors that are permanently assigned to the mall. Police point out past smash-and-go crimes like these in the city are part of a national trend. Shoppers who feel they're being followed or witness anything suspicious are urged to call 911. On Long Island, Jennifer McLogan, CBS 2 News.
Just shocking video caught on camera. We reached out to the Roosevelt Field Mall and are waiting for a statement from them. They did refer us to the Nassau County Police Department.
We all know that gun violence is a huge problem in West Michigan and across the nation. We all want to keep our children safe, and there's a special camp designed to give our kids tools and resources to end the cycle of gun violence within Kalamazoo. Now, we are talking about the Urban Alliance Life Camps. Welcome to James Harris to tell us more about how to get our kiddos involved. James, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about these camps. So that you guys have done some sessions already. You've got more sessions to come. What will kids experience?
Man, young people will, first of all, have a great time. So we have a combination of activities and then also education. You know, so they really enjoy the Nerf gun fights, the water gun fights, right? Paintball. They have an opportunity to shoot a paintball gun at non-human targets. And also, what's really dear to me is kids have an opportunity to express their emotions about gun violence in our community by writing Dear Shooter letters, you know, to individuals who may be contemplating pulling the trigger or who have actually done that. But these letters are letters of compassion and not condemnation, try to encourage. And then the education part, you know, we have our Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety come in and talk about gun violence and gun usage. We have a hunter that comes in and talks. We have individuals that come in and also talk about being licensed to carry, you know, so we're really trying to educate the young people about gun usage, because it's not necessarily the gun that's the problem, it's the hand that the gun is in. So if we can teach them, you know, that our hands are meant to heal, you know, to hug, to give high fives, to cuddle, and so forth, I think that we can move the needle as it relates to eradicating gun violence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And talk a little bit more about the education piece as well, because, you know, obviously, yes, the hand is the one responsible, but I think a lot of these kids maybe don't understand a gun and what it does and how this education can hopefully help them and help other peers as well.
Yeah, and like I stated is, you know, it's just so many recreational usages for guns, you know. I've shot a gun before at a gun range, sure. You know, and I walked away. I wasn't hurt. No one else was hurt. You know, the police wasn't looking for me, you know, and then, you know, hunting is the same way. You know, going to a shooting range is the same way. So we're just trying to teach kids that you can do this recreationally,
yeah.
And not recklessly, sure. You know, hurting individuals.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so how can kids get involved? This is totally free.
Yeah, this is totally free, you know, and young people can get involved by going to Urban Alliance website and registering there. They have to register in order to participate, okay. Or the adults have to register them. And our next Life Camp is actually next Tuesday, you know, and I do want to say this before each Life Camp. We always have a march that's student-led in our community, and they did an amazing job, you know, last month. You know, so you have the march that leads up to the actual camp that takes place normally on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so talk to us a little bit. You've done this before in years past. You've done it already this summer. What is the reaction from the students after they've gone through something like this?
Man, I'm not making this up. They love the camp, you know, and I'm finding out that young people want us to believe in them and to give them a platform for their voice to be heard. Because normally, whose voices do you hear when it's about gun violence? Ours, adults. You know, but young people really want that platform, you know, and they don't want their voice silenced. So they just really enjoy being like an advocate for life at the life camps.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And they are impacted just as much as we are.
Most definitely. By you saying that, I'm thinking of 2 siblings that came to the last camp. You know, their father was murdered last year. You know, and when that happened, you know, we saw that their life just kind of like depressed and stressed out. Went to their middle school to promote the life camp, and this individual came up to me. I didn't even know it was the same guy.
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, but this time around, him and his sister were a part of the podcast that we do during the camp. You know, giving the kids an opportunity again to express their emotions and then to give us some type of instructions on how we can help our community.
I love that. I love that. We got to give these kids a voice.
We have to. We have to. They're so powerful, and we need them so bad. You know, so we're really just trying to create this peer-to-peer education. You know, because they're in some circles that we'll probably never be in. You know, so if we can influence the influencer, you know, maybe we can move the needle a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. There are some certain age restrictions. Who is this good for? Who can attend?
11 to 16-year-olds can attend. And the reason why we went that direction is because the CDC reports, you know, that homicide is the 2nd leading cause of death, you know, for individuals between the ages of 15 and 24. But normally, when gun violence happens amongst young people, the age 11 through 17 is normally someone that was their friend that committed the homicide against them or whatever. You know, so we're trying to start young and move the needle there, and hopefully as they grow, you know, they can help us continue to create a safe community.
Thank you so much, James, for all you do. And there's this camp. You got several sessions left. You want to learn more, urbanalliancekalamazoo.org. There are the dates there.